Welcome to Maple Drive. Maple Drive was quiet, too quiet. Houses sat nestled amongst perfectly manicured lawns. The air was always still. It was the kind of place where nothing exciting ever happened. The Millers felt lucky to live there. They had always dreamed of a peaceful life in the suburbs. Little did they know their peaceful life was about to change. John Miller was a cheerful accountant. He loved nothing more than spending time with his family. Mary, his wife, was a skilled painter. She filled their home with warmth and colour. Their son, Billy, was a curious and imaginative boy of 10. He loved exploring the woods behind their house. Life on Maple Drive was simple and predictable. That is, until the footprints appeared. One crisp December morning, John noticed something strange. Footprints marred the frost-covered grass in their backyard. The prints started at the edge of the woods and led right up to their back door. He called Mary and Billy over to see. They had never seen anything like it. What kind of animal would make tracks like that? Mary wondered aloud, her brow furrowed. The footprints were too big to be a dog or a raccoon. They were too narrow for a deer. Billy, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement, had a different theory. "Maybe it's a monster!" he exclaimed, his imagination running wild. John and Mary exchanged a worried glance. They tried to shrug it off as an animal, but deep down a seed of unease had been planted. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, John decided to install a security camera. He placed it discreetly, facing the backyard. That night, they slept with a mix of apprehension and curiosity. The next morning, they huddled around the computer, their faces pale with dread. They pressed play on the video. At first, all they saw was the backyard bathed in the pale moonlight. Then a figure emerged from the trees. The figure was tall and impossibly thin. Its limbs were abnormally long and swayed with an unsettling rhythm. It wore what looked like ragged, dark clothing that seemed to blend into the night. The figure moved slowly towards their house, stopping just outside their living room window. There it stood, unmoving, staring into their home. John, Mary, and Billy watched in horror as the figure remained there for what felt like an eternity. They could make out no discernible features, just a shadowy silhouette against the night. It was as if the darkness itself had taken form. Section 5, The Police Don't Believe Us. John immediately called the police, his voice trembling. He described the figure and their growing fear. 2 officers arrived, their faces skeptical. They examined the footage, but the darkness and the poor quality of the video made it difficult to make out any details. "It's probably just a prank," one officer said dismissively. "Kids will be kids." The other officer nodded in agreement. "We'll keep an eye out on our patrols," he said, but John could tell by their tone that they didn't believe him. The officers left, leaving the Millers feeling more vulnerable than ever. Section 6, Every night it returns. The police presence did nothing to deter the figure. Night after night it returned, always the same routine. It emerged from the woods, walked to their window, and stared inside. Each night, the Millers huddled together in their bedroom, terrified. They tried boarding up the windows, but the figure just moved to a different one. Their once peaceful home had become a prison of fear. Sleep was impossible. Section 7, A Tap on the Glass. One particularly cold night, as the family sat huddled in the living room, the unthinkable happened. A sound, soft yet distinct, echoed through the room. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the window. The figure was tapping on the glass. Frozen in terror, the Millers watched as the shadowy hand slowly retracted from the window. They held their breath, their hearts pounding in their chests. Then, slowly, the figure's face turned towards them. Section 8. We had to leave. For the first time, the figure seemed to acknowledge their presence. It was as if it was looking directly at them. The lack of discernible features only amplified the horror. They were looking into an abyss, and the abyss was looking back. That was the final straw. John knew they couldn't stay in that house a moment longer. They packed a few essential belongings, bundled themselves into the car, and fled. They didn't stop driving until the sun began to rise. Section 9. The House on Maple Drive. The Millers never returned to Maple Drive. The house stood empty, a silent testament to the terror that had unfolded within its walls. Locals whispered about the family that had abandoned their home, driven out by something sinister. Some claimed to have seen a tall, shadowy figure lurking in the woods behind the house. Others said they felt a cold, watchful presence whenever they passed by. But no one dared to venture too close, especially at night. The house on Maple Drive remained abandoned, a chilling reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface.